So it's been almost 5 months since the last Urban Witches dev diary, but that doesn't mean that nothing in that time has happened. So even doing just a simple 1-minute update took a considerable amount of time to do. So after the 20-second update, which was the last one that I did, I decided to utilize that time to directly work and test on the game itself. Now that the game is done and all that I'm waiting on is the final testing, I wanted to do one final dev diary, which will also cover the most content yet. So in Dev Diary 23, I'm going to go over the 10 biggest changes that have occurred in the game since the last Urban Witches dev diary. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the menu, and within the menu the other thing we want to look at are the icons, because that's changed as well. So as far as the menu itself, if we look at the bottom right hand corner where it says magic, loadout, player profile, options, save, the title screen, this is about half of what used to be here. There used to also be the purse, the to-do list, the CD player, and the 1-800 psychic option. And I think the game manual is on here as well, which that can be seen from the title screen now. The rest of them have been moved to another area, which we'll talk about later in this video, and how to access it, which that process is actually a lot easier now. So all of this is simplified, and like I said, the icons have also changed. So for example, if we go to loadout, we can equip one of the outfits, and all the outfits have their own icons as well. In the options, we can also see that all of these match a lot better. They're all custom. There's about 300 icons total that I actually went through and spent quite a bit of time to make sure that they all matched. And even though this is just within the menu where you see a lot of these, like I said, there's over 300 icons total, and you will see those throughout the entire game. In the playtesting, it was discovered that items that were used to replenish swag, which is your health or magic, were too spread out in the game. There are items that can be found throughout the game, but if you wanted to buy a nest egg of them before fighting, say, a boss or something, you would have to visit the Come and Leave, which there's several of them, but they're spread out to where they're pretty much in every other chapter. So I went back and I added the second update, which are vending machines, where you can buy 4 of the 6 items that are found at a Come and Leave. And just like real vending machines, these are convenient, but they also cost a little bit more. It was also discovered in the playtesting that the small price increase was still worth not having to go back a chapter to load up on items, and this became a welcome addition in the game. Urban Witches has a handful of minigames, and very early on in development I introduced a scratch-off mechanic where you can bring Jared an icy and he'll trade you 1-for-1 scratch-off ticket. At the time, I called that scratch-off ticket Urban Loot, and it had scratch-off symbols such as fidget spinners and vapes. But then as development continued, I had a lot of different brands that were in the game, and I felt that Urban Loot was just kind of a play off of the theme of the title, and it really needed something to kind of separate itself into its own brand. And so later on, I ended up naming it Gold Digger, and I changed the theme visibly. So this also meant that with changing the theme of the actual scratch-off card itself, I also changed the scratch icons. So now, instead of like the fidget spinner and all that, we have icons such as the money bags, and we have the actual like golden, the Gold Digger hoe, and then a positive pregnancy test. As mentioned earlier, several of the options inside the main menu were taken out, but these features are still here. So for example, you can no longer call your phone psychic from the menu, but if you press the left bumper on the controller, it brings up the purse menu, and you can select an item, which in this case will do the burner cell phone, and this is only good for calling your psychic. So once you have it selected, you can see in the bottom where it says item, you just press the left trigger and it will activate whatever that item is. So in this case, we're calling the phone psychic, but we'll go ahead and exit out of this. and we'll choose something else. So for example, we can go ahead and we'll do the walk roll, which is the CD player, and if we hit the left trigger, it pulls up the menu for the songs that we've unlocked, and we can go ahead and listen to them from here. A few other things worth mentioning are like the glow sticks if you're in a dark area, and also the comic book. So as you unlock the pages, you can go ahead and hit the left trigger, and that also will bring up any of the pages that you have unlocked. This next one's a little bit of an Easter egg, but all of the TVs inside the game are usable. If you go up to one, they all have a different music video from Danny Bars, who is the rapper who went ahead and let us use his music for the game. So any of the TVs that you see in the game, you can actually go up to and interact with, and each one will have a different video for you to watch. The first power that you get in the game is Carmen Catastrophe, which was a widespread triple moon projectile, followed by the second power, Chrissy Killshot, which was a single projectile but more powerful. And although I still feel that both of these are very different from each other and both have their own pros and cons, they were too similar to have back to back as the first two powers. With that being said, I changed the Carmen Catastrophe to a blue magic flame, which is now a radial attack that's just as powerful as the original Carmen Catastrophe, but attacks differently by damaging anyone who's close enough. The original Carmen Catastrophe power has actually been reutilized later down the line, and instead of Lana having it, Colleen now does, and instead of Carmen Catastrophe, it's now called Rick's Resistance. In the last few months, several new spells have been added to the game, and not all of them are attacks. In fact, several of them are almost like utilities and can be unlocked from Connie, who brews potions. Buying a potion from Connie and drinking it unlocks new abilities, which will further expand your reach and allow you to get into new areas of the game, or at the very least make different areas easier to traverse. In addition to the normal game, there are 6 bonus areas that can be unlocked, and you can get to 5 of those 6 by using the Shorty Bus fast travel system. One of these areas is the comic book store, where you can buy booster packs for card battles, which we'll get into next. Or if you want to unlock the entire comic book instantly, you can do so here, rather than finding all of the collectibles in a level, which would then unlock a number of the pages, which doesn't cost you anything. Possibly my favorite part of the game is the amusement park, which is Dreamland / Nightmareland. It's a theme park that consists of 2 dimensions that Lana will later gain the ability to switch between, and navigating the park is entirely dependent on this ability, and there's lots of secrets in this area. Also, you can find Connie in the nightmare section of the park, and that will gain you access to the spells, which will then help you learn new spells. I took out the trading cards, which could be found in each of the common leaves. Each chapter had a set of trading cards that were themed based off of several indie games, most of which were my own, and could be traded to Nick, who is Urban Witch's card collector, in exchange for very rare items. This has all been replaced with Carmageddon, which is a card battling game. Early on, you get a set of 10 random cards, which is enough to battle with, and each of the common leaves will randomly give you a booster pack, which is $5 to help perfect your deck. And the booster packs could be small, they could be big, it's completely random. And once the comic store is unlocked, you can specifically buy the more expensive booster packs. And instead of collecting the cards for Nick and simply giving them to him, you now have you have to battle for rare items. This has also been expanded to other characters in the game who will require you to beat them in a game of Carmageddon in order to trade for items or information. And I didn't mention this before, but in the comic store, there's also the Carmageddon competition where you can battle the top players and win additional items. Finally, the biggest change of them all, and that is New Game Plus. This was a lot of work to pull off, and for anyone who doesn't know, New Game Plus is a feature that allows you to play the game a second time after you beat it the first go around. Only you get to play it again with all the same stats, items, weapons, and powers that you had when you finished the game the first time. To make it even more interesting, New Game Plus isn't just a second playthrough. The game ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, and in order to see the game's true ending, you have to beat New Game Plus. A lot of the dialogue is also different the second time around, so you do get more content with this feature, giving you even more purpose to keep playing the game. So those are the top 10 changes that have occurred since the last Dev Diary, and for everything else you'll have to play the game yourself, which will be available early December of this year. I spent nearly 2.5 years and 4,000 hours developing Urban Witches. And unlike my other games, Urban Witches will be available by donation only so that everyone can afford to play it. I hope you enjoy it when it comes out. I just want to say thank you to everyone who agreed to be in it, to everyone who followed its progress, and to everyone who's currently beta testing. And a very special thank you to Danny Bars for letting us sample his music.